How do you compartmentalize, or how do you deal with that stress and go into running your business?
A lot of people are going to use that as an excuse as to why they can't do something.
How do you block out all the stress so it doesn't affect your sleep? Then is there something you specifically do?
I think it's a choice to be stressed out over stuff. One bad meal, one missed workout will not mess up your goal.
Being on it and staying on it is hard too, but they both have their advantages and disadvantages.
Building massive businesses, obviously this country, largest transfers of wealth. Baby boomers just coming of age. If you buy a business, and you have
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the KB podcast. Again, today I have with me Gio Oliva. We've had a lot of discussions, Gio. We went over a few different things over the last few podcasts of, especially development, because that's the industry we're in. I am personally, on the horizontal and vertical side. And we went over, acquisitions, a lot of these other businesses, buying these other companies. Something most people don't talk about is there's a lot of stress. I could personally attest to this for being in these businesses, buying these businesses, everything that's involved with it. There's a lot of stress that comes along with that. And there's a lot of things that, us as humans that have to deal with, it doesn't matter if it's food, water, the pollution, just in a lot of those foods that we have nowadays, the water that's polluted, the air that's polluted. So the hidden cost of growth is kind of the subject matter on this, conversation today. What comes to mind, whenever we start talking about this, cause there's so much, I think this is something me and you, especially because I've trained, for the last 25 years of my life, if not longer, did a lot of hardcore training. I think same for you. So what comes to your mind whenever we start talking about this?
Yeah, well, it's certainly multifaceted because you've got the physical side of it, the mental side of it, and it's all about, peak performance, right? Performing at your best, not just in the business setting, but also, in your personal setting, family, right? You want to have enough of the energy for both parts. So, let's pick a place to start, Kylie. This is a great subject. We both invest in this because we're investing in ourselves, right? So yeah, where do you want to kick it off?
Well, I think the best place is morning routine. I have mine. I think it works great for me. Everybody falls off the routine, but we'll go dive a little bit more into how we get back on our routine and what the difference feels like when you're off your routine, because being off the routine, me personally, is never fun. So being on it and staying on it is hard too, but they both have their advantages and disadvantages. So can you give us a little bit of rundown on what your current routine is?
Yeah, for sure. And I think I'll just go back a little bit and give a start to my story in terms of the fitness journey and everything else, because I got to a point where I was like 267, and I was always in
Wait,
shape.
why?
267 I was. I'm like 198 now.
Right. Yeah.
About a year and a half ago. So it wasn't too long ago. And I'd always come from playing sports and pretty decent level. I boxed as well. So I was in decent shape. Things happen, you get stuck into work without balance. And this will tie into everything. And no routine. I was just running and gunning and just tackling my problems without any control of my own day, right? So this goes back to having a well-structured routine. Realized I needed to make some changes and got into a lot of a couple of different men's groups, peak performance, fitness, fasting, different things, and started building a routine. So a typical routine for me in the morning is, and I've tried them all, the meditation in the mornings. And for me, if I get up and I meditate, straight away, I'm falling back asleep. So I'm like, I need to set it up so it's successful. So for me, I've got that. I want to get out of the house straight away. So I'll get up, brush my teeth, and I'll go for a walk first in the morning. That way I'm moving the body around. I'll listen to some music in the morning. So it's either house music. So there's something to be said about the vibrations of house music, supposedly. So maybe that's something to look into, or some gospel music. And it's, that's just my little thing I do in the mornings for the music. And I'll walk for about minimum 30 minutes, try to go uphill, get that in. Then I get back and I'll go through my routine of some journaling. I've got specific audios that I've created for myself with my own voice, and now, visualization things that I'm working on. So that's short-term goals, 3 months, things that I want to achieve in the next 3 months. And then I scale it out from there, work-related stuff. And then I save my harder work out till later in the day for me, because I'm just, not a massive fan of going hard, like first thing in the morning.
Is that just because you're low on calories, or what's your...
No, I've got a busy morning as well. A lot of times if I start early and then, I'm on the West Coast, and if people on the I'm talking to on the
Oh, yeah.
East Coast. Or sometimes
Yep.
it's just having the right amount of time to do it. But I was doing CrossFit in the mornings at one point, and it was 5 a.m. CrossFit class. So it would. I don't think it helped me feel fresh for my first phone calls. Right, it was the other way around for me. But
Yeah.
again, everybody's different, right? So you're going to find what works for you. And again, this is something I've tweaked over time, and I found what works for me. So yeah, the morning routine starts with the walk, goes to the journaling, visualization. The first audio I have is always gratitude. It may sound pretty cliche and corny, but I've got a full audio that I've verbalized myself, recorded myself, and it's gratitude to the simple things. The fact that I can get up and walk, right? It's a small but pretty powerful thing. So yeah, that's the main bulk of the morning, and then all of my day is mapped out for me, right? I know exactly what I'm doing all day. Everything is time blocked. So that I would say is key factor, is get it set up the night before. So I finish every night by setting up the next day.
Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, a lot of my schedule for the day is already pre-planned, and how that goes. You get so many meetings booked throughout the day, so that stays pretty routine. Like, there's not much freedom on that. Yesterday, I did get to leave a little bit early. Went to the motocross track, even though it was like 98 degrees outside. It was great though. Honestly, I was sweating my butt off. But mine's kind of the same as yours. I just reversed it. Like when I got my strongest, I was weight training in the evening, but I had I was eating between 4 to 5,000 calories, and I was like 220 pounds. Right now I'm like 195, so I'm going for a totally different goal. It's not the bodybuilder look anymore. It's more of the physique kind of look. It's more cardiovascular, but same thing. So when I wake up, it's almost the same thing, unless my son's with me. But he works out with me sometimes. But I wake up and always pray. I always pray. It's one of the first things I do, and a lot of times I'll be praying on the way to the gym. But it's the same thing as the gratitude. It's like everything I'm thankful for, and then just asking God to bless me with great wisdom, different things that I personally look for in my life. That's first and foremost. But it's usually on my way to the gym. I'll sit there and talk to God on the way to the gym, and then once I'm at the gym, it depends on how I'm feeling. So today was a little bit more fatigued because of how hardcore yesterday is. I did legs, shoulders, and then probably almost 2 hours of cardio on the motocross bike, which sounds a little crazy, but you obviously take breaks or 20 to 30-minute motos. But if you look at my, I got this good old whoop band, wristband, and it showed my heart rate for the whole 2 hours averaged 140 beats per minute for 2 hours straight. So I had it up to the 180s, and I had it all the way down to like 107 in the interim, during breaks. But, it was pretty intense. So today's a lot less intense because I know my body can't handle it. So, but, I'll go to the gym first thing in the morning, which I didn't really think about it, but you're right. Being on the West Coast, you're dealing with people on the East Coast. If you wake up at 5, it's already, 8 o'clock their time. For me, I'm Central. So, me getting up at 4, it's only 5 o'clock their time. Nobody's really started. So,
yeah, it gives you that window, doesn't it?
Yeah, I could at least work out and do stuff. But
yeah,
you're right.
I wanted to say, Kai, because you mentioned about training with your son. That was a big shift for me. My son's sort of 14 now, and he wants to go to the gym.
Yep.
He stopped playing soccer. He's asking me, Dad, can I work out with you? And I'm like, I'm taking that chance because who knows when I'll get it again. So he will not get up in the mornings. I try to start there with him, but I had to compromise. So that's where we train in the evenings together. We'll go after work, go to the gym, which is beautiful blessing.
No, that's invaluable. Like, and that's why I do switch up my routines. So like anytime my kids, I got 4 kids between the ages of 11 and 19, and my 11-year-old, he'll still get up early with me and go to the gym at 5 a.m. But I try not to force it too much, or I don't try to train him too hard. He's motivated though. He's like Kylie Jr. Honestly, that's his name. But he is a junior for sure. Like spitting an image of me, almost a little bit more handsome fellow. But he's motivated, so that's pretty cool. So, with the training, that's one thing. There's so much more to that though. Like for me, and I'm just going to dab on it, but like, I do a lot of things. So yesterday my body was so fatigued because it was, I had pushed it real hard. So after I got done cleaning up my bikes, which is my heart rate to even clean my bikes is around 125 to 150 because I'm moving around so fast and doing stuff. After I get done with that, I don't eat usually right off the bat. I go and I jump in the ice bath. That's just me personally because I like it. Don't get me wrong. Anybody that's watching, I hate getting in the first, 10, 20 seconds. It's not fun. But right after that, it actually feels great, and I'm good with it. I don't go 15 minutes anymore because it seemed like it taxed me too much. So I'm usually around that 3 to 5 minutes, and I feel rejuvenated. But my body just recovers a lot more. And if I had a lot of stress, I will try to kind of do like an intermittent fasting and try to remove a lot of the lactic acid out of my body. And then I'll do like anti-inflammatory diet. So not going to say 100% carnivore, but pretty close to, with a lot of good fats. And I'll keep it real low on carbs, like very low on processed carbs. Maybe none for a few days, especially as hard as I'm training right now. So my body heals super quick and I feel great. So if you want to jump in a little bit more of that, there's so many things that I do there though, on like the intermittent fasting and ice baths and saunas and all that stuff that I think's great. And me personally, I had some heavy metal issues. So when I'm doing like my sweating, I'll take charcoal or bentonite clay, and it helps remove a lot of those toxins that you get from a lot of the waters and all those phytoestrogens, anoestrogens from water bottles and all that crap, So
Yeah, well, I think that's a podcast on its own. Big food, big pharma. I think there's a huge topic. But when it comes to fasting, well, let's start with the ice baths. I've certainly dabbled a bit with the ice baths and always love it after the fact. But yeah,
yep.
I'm one that struggles to get in. But my neighbour, we used to go running in the mornings together.
Yeah.
And then this was more in the winter. And again, we're talking California winter, so they're not that, let's face it, but they're all relative. But he's got an outdoor pool, and it was pretty cold. We'd start there. We started in the pool. We eased our way in, and then he had the ice bath inside. And we, over time, you get used to it. But yeah, you feel amazing for it. Saunas, just not using them regularly enough. But it's certainly something. I know it's a bit of a hot topic, the ice baths, and everybody's preaching it. But I think there's definitely something to be said about it. I just try a cold shower now. Every shower I finish, I'll blast myself with a cold. Just a couple of minutes at the end of the day to do something. And then I've got like a face thing that I've just ordered it actually. So it's coming in the mail, and it's like an ice bath for the face. So we'll see what happens there. Supposedly it's supposed to turn the clock backwards. But don't judge me on today's video. So I'll let you know on that one. But to go to the fasting, so I actually was part of a men's group. That for me was a massive factor that got me back in shape and got me, got the weight off. And there's this guy who's, super eclectic. His name's the Panda Man, Kyle Newell. That's funny. His name's Kyle. He's from New York. A lot of presence online. Real knowledgeable about fasting. And I was in his, inner program and men's group. And he teaches really. You're doing a 48-hour fast on a Sunday till Tuesday, once a week. And again, I mean, the days can be whenever you like, but this is typically when he's sets it up. And then the rest of the days we're doing OMAD, which is one meal a day. And you'll be shocked at how much, actually, I feel so much stronger and more energetic when I'm training fasted. That's a massive part of it for me.
I agree. After your body adjusts, so let's
it does take some time.
Yeah, because I feel like crap sometimes when my body's adjusting. But great point. Like when I was doing that, and I'm not trying to interrupt because you got a great conversation going, but when you're doing the fasting and not eating that often, I get much stronger. Like I know, bodybuilders, but you got to remember bodybuilders, I used to train this way. They're eating 4, 5, 6 times a day. And those guys are doing tons of steroids. If you're natural like us, or if you're even on TRT, you're not doing nowhere near.
I was going to say, we'll get to that point because
we can touch on that too. Don't get me wrong, I messed around a little bit with peptides, stuff like that, but most of it's pretty minimal anymore. There's a point to that, but I'll let you go back on what you were speaking about. That's a great conversation, honestly.
Yeah, again, so the fasting for me, the longest fast I did was a 12-day fast.
12 days?
12 days straight. Just water, a lot of electrolytes.
Yep.
But again, this is, I didn't do that right off the bat. There was a year's worth of practicing and doing fasting, getting used to it, understanding what my body could do. Typically, when I'm doing a longer fast, first few days, I'm really light in the gym.
No, that's really cool, man. Honestly, I didn't know that about you. Like, I didn't know you were into fasting and all that stuff. I've only done it 3 days, so I can't compare to a 12-day, but 3 days was it was a fun one. The second day was pretty horrible, honestly.
Yeah, that's the worst. This is the worst one. Once you get through it, it's almost like euphoria. And actually, this is a lot of people will attest to this. Is there's a bit more of a connection spiritually. There's a pathway to Jesus or to God or to the higher power, and you certainly feel calmer. Everything seems to move a little slower in a good way. Your mind is clearer. The clarity you get is amazing because you're tapping into that fat source that you've got in your body, right? And you're training your body to go inwards and get the energy from you. So, but to go back to the training with it, man, I felt so strong. So, I was training 2-3 times a day, and actually I did the 12-day fast when I was doing a 75 hard. So I had to do minimum two sessions a day. So yeah, it was. I kind of surprised myself how much you can do on it. So, but again, I'll go back and say start slow.
That's the thing I tell people all the time. Maybe there's a lot of truth to this, but either your body is digesting food or tealing. So it's doing one of the two. So if you're eating food, every couple hours, and that's what they trained you to do. The FDA, which, just being honest with you, that's garbage in my mind. The FDA in every which way. I wouldn't follow any of the recommendations, but I really don't follow most of any of the government regulation or recommendations, because none of it holds true. It all ends up changing. But they're 3 meals a day, 4 meals a day, whatever it is anymore. I just don't believe that. That's not the way they used to eat back in the early years. Let's call it around Jesus' time. It's once a day, maybe once every couple of days. I mean, it's harder to get used to. And if you have diabetes issues or anything like that, you definitely want to check in with your doctor. But regular doctors don't always know how to handle that, so you would have to find a specialist on that, or someone that's more of a naturopath. So, not trying to push anybody off that, but I do believe in fasting. I definitely believe in prayer. I didn't believe it as much as I do nowadays, but those two things are tremendous in my life right now.
Yeah, and they've been there from the start of time, both
Yeah.
both of them. So there's something to be said about that. And to go back to the 3 meals a day, yeah, look, all that stuff works. No one's going to say that you can't get good results, weight loss, and all the things that you can get with it
Oh,
by
absolutely. Yeah.
controlling your macros and your calories. But you've got to be very strict, and willpower only lasts so long. I think what I love about fasting for me personally was the flexibility of it, and this goes for your training as well. And you mentioned this earlier at the start, Kylie. You're not perfect. We're not perfect all the time. You're going to mess up. You're going to change your routine. What I learned, because before this year and a half of getting back in shape, I tried for 10 years the typical yo-yo, diet, in shape, out of shape, and always put the weight back on, because it seemed to be I'd build this routine for 2 weeks and it would be intense, and I'd have one day where I'd fail, which would be normal because it's so bloody hard to do it,
Yeah.
and that would be it. Then I'd go on a binge for 2-3 weeks, and I think I'd ruined it. It
Yeah.
was tiring to go through that for so long, and people around you see you trying and failing and going back, and you let them down, you let yourself down with your own word. And then being in this group, something clicked for me about the coaching there. Kyle was like, listen, you just got to forgive yourself. Like, you're gonna mess up.
Yep.
Just reset. One bad meal, one missed workout
Yeah.
will not mess up your goal. Now, if you compound it, so the trick was, okay, when you mess up, if I don't train today, well, don't do 2 days where you don't train, or don't have 2 days where you're off your typical eating regime or whatever it may be. So that forgiveness and that reset just really helped me, because it was such a small thing, but it was so powerful.
No, and I agree with that. And I don't know if you ever watched any of my other videos, even the one I did with JT Fox. I talk about that all the time. Like, whenever you have a goal in mind, like, it could be to lose a ton of weight. Don't wait until tomorrow. Start right now. Who cares? Like, if you got a birthday party coming up, cool. Eat whatever you want on that one day for that one meal, but go right back to your diet. Like, it doesn't matter. Start right now. And even like what you were talking about a minute ago, when I got my leanest, I did those physique contests, which did it in my later 30s. I was eating 5 meals a day, but it was just, basically just lean proteins, like very low carbs. I think I was eating, maybe, depends on the day, but between 26 to 52 grams of carbs on the high carb days where I was training real heavy, and stuff. But I was ripped, and yeah, I was eating 5 times a day, but I get the same method or same results eating 1 time a day or twice a day. Just depends on your diet. Realistically, I do better with 2 times a day. A lot of times right now I'm still doing 2 to 3 and even sometimes 4, but I switch it up, depends on what I'm doing. But honestly, I do feel the best whenever my fasting is more intact, and I'm doing, I shouldn't just say fasting, when I'm doing at least intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
At
Well,
least
so go into that a little bit deeper, because there's obviously your typical 16-8, right? You're fasting 16, you're eating for 8. A lot of people say that doesn't move the needle. I mean, obviously it depends on what you're trying to achieve, but when you're intermittent fasting, what's your time frame? What's the window for you?
So pretty simple. So I'm done eating at 6 o'clock at night, and then I won't eat again until 12 o'clock the next day.
Okay.
And I try to do it, if I'm only doing 2 meals, it'll be at 12 and 6. Sometimes, okay, I'm going to be too hungry later on, so you have a little snack in between. But that stays really good with me. And after my body adjusts to it, I feel amazing. Like, I start feeling, like you said, I don't know what the time frame is for everybody, because everybody's body is different, but within about 7 to 10 days, you start noticing that huge change. And a lot of times it's your body going from glycogen stored up in your body over to more of a ketosis. And if you're, not eating many carbs in your meals. If you're still eating a lot of, carbs during those 2 meals, fine, that might change. But for me, I think that's why I have that little bit harder time transition over, is I go super low carb, and I'm going more into ketosis during that time frame. And nothing wrong with it. I feel great when I do it. If I noticed anything off, then I would make some changes, but you do have that little transition period.
Yeah, and I think if anybody's going to start, the simplest way I would suggest anybody start with a fasting. Just skip breakfast and you're halfway there. And that's a really good way to get used to that, because that's the thing we always reach for, especially with the media and, trying to condition us to get the cereals, to get the sugars in early so they can get us hooked on 5 meals a day. It's not profitable to sell people 1 meal a day, is it? That lifestyle. So
Well,
again,
no,
that's
because you
another.
get rid of all your, well, I shouldn't say all, you'll get rid of over 95% of your health issues, ailments, just by fasting. And, obviously you got to have clean water and stuff like that, which is hard to find nowadays. So we could do a whole subject about that. But what a lot of this leads into, though, Gio, is like what we're talking about right off the bat is all the stress and all the emotions that go through everything and how you deal with it. Cause like I used to get so stressed. Like, I was involved with a couple lawsuits. Those used to stress me out, whatever. And they really shouldn't have, but they used to stress me out. Like, and then things go wrong, like in development. I can't tell you how many things go wrong. All the investors that invest with us, they always think everything's just so easy and perfect, which is cool. I'll let them think that. That's fine. It's because I make it think that way because they didn't hear about the 100 bumps that were in the road while I was getting to the end goal. They just see the end goal, the results and see what happened. But the emotional roller coaster you go through, can you take us through a little bit of a jump through that? Like on your side is completely different than mine. I'm controlling some big businesses, but everybody is trying to grow their business or growing what they're doing. There's a lot of stress involved with that, or just even daily life for, stay at home mom. There's a lot of stress.
Yeah, well, I'll take this to the grave. I think it's a choice to be stressed out over stuff,
There's a lot of people that are going to argue with you about that, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that things don't compound and, there's stuff on you, but
And
you
just
can.
so we're on the same page, I agree with you. Is just so.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you an example. I'll break it down. Let's say I've got, a certain amount of calls today. And I start visualizing, I've got all these calls and look at my calendar. I've got, I don't have the time. I'm going at it the wrong way. I can only make one phone call at a time. There's only one thing I can do at a time. So I just try to start there and tackle everything. And, I really stay connected or disconnected to any outcome. So if I start from a place of service, in my role, I'm talking to a lot of different people, a lot of investors, and I'm never, or I learned this over the years, right? Being in the business that we're in, raising capital, I'm always disattached from the outcome. I want to turn up and I want to understand who I'm talking to, what they're looking to achieve, why they're looking to achieve it, and what's the cost of inaction for them if they don't, get the objective, right? So
Yeah,
my
but
job.
you try
Yeah.
to think about this though, because like I get where you're going with that, but like let's say because here's where people can't compartmentalize is like, what if okay, you have your relationship with your wife over there, and that's and the whatever you're having a heck of a problem over there. How do you compartmentalize or how do you deal with that stress and go into running your business and making sure you're creating all that the way it needs to be? Because you got a great point about how you're going to interact with all the clients. You have that down pat and that's something you do day by day. But what if something's thrown into, monkey wrench thrown in and you and your wife feel like you're going through the worst times, you feel like you're getting divorced or whatever's going on there, or just the daily, routines of your kids and stuff like that, a lot of people, that's what they're, going to feel is like that stress, those day-to-day items that throw them off track, from achieving what they want to do. Well, I got kids. Well, I got my wife or my husband or whatever,
Well, I think, yeah, you got two choices. A lot of people are going to use that as an excuse as to why they can't do something. I mean, I can't speak, for everybody, but what I do is I've got a pre-call anchor or pre-work anchor. Again, goes back to those audios I've recorded, right? So before every call, I've got a little 30-second audio that I put on. It just gets me set for that call. And then after the call, regardless of what happens in that call and what the outcome is, I'm disattached. I'm moving into every stage. So when I'm in work mode, I'm separating myself from what's going on in my life because everybody's got problems, issues, challenges. I've got kids. I went for a separation with my wife. So I can tell you the last year has been tough in that sense. But, I'm a believer of these things that make you stronger. So I systemize everything in that sense. So I don't take it in. So when I'm, father, I'm in the father mode. Right? Work's gone and I switch off. My wife, by the watch her, she works till 2, 3 in the morning. She can't, switch off at times. Right? You got to learn to cut ties and say, okay, this is my time. This is the time I'm going to be present for me. This is the time I'm going to be present for my family. And when I'm on work, I'm going to be there and present for work. So I'm not saying it's easy, but I've got a method. I use these audios a lot, and it sets me for every call. So I have a pre-work one, which is a pre-work anchor, and then a pre-call anchor, and then after the call, I do a quick audio, and I just basically cut off from what happened. Right. So there's
So
something attached to the result of it.
you got that special time of night that it's called bedtime.
Mm-hmm.
Like how do you block out all the stress so it doesn't affect your sleep? Then is there something you specifically do? Because I have my things, obviously that I think work great. Definitely did not happen overnight. I was probably one of the worst about stressing about stuff, but anymore, I'm not saying there's nothing out there, but there's very little you can throw my way that doesn't, that's going to stress me out, like very little. So I guess give me a rundown on like, what do you do? How do
Yeah,
you prevent that from stopping you from sleeping? Because if you stop it from sleeping, now you're tired the next day. So guess what happens when you're tired? You're cranky
yeah.
and you
Well,
respond differently. So
it's a good question. Again, for me, it's the meditation audios I use. It really, because I tapping into my breath and I'm resetting myself and I'm staying as present as I
okay,
can.
so you really love these meditation things you
Yeah,
do.
yeah, big time. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying these are crazy like meditation, but they're more like breath work and anchoring myself, and then just staying in the moment. So I've got about 8 or 9 of them. I've got a load of them for different things. The one I use for fasting, but one's a reset. If I'm getting hungry and I'm doing a longer fast, I pop the audio on and I remind myself of why I'm doing it and staying in the moment, and I know what's going to come in terms of these emotions. So stress. Now, I will tell you this: sleep is probably the worst part of my routine that I am failing at the most. Getting good quality sleep. So that's the key. So that's something I need to work on. Like I say, it's not perfection. I'm not perfect at all. There's obviously a good reason I got out of shape. I had some really bad habits. So it does take time to train to change that.
Yeah.
So yes, for me, I'd love to go into your how you optimize sleep, because for me, I'm kind of with that side of it. It's not great.
On sleep, I will say the ice bath, especially late at night, helps out, or a cold shower, like you talked about. Like I'll make it as cold as possible. That helps out a lot. But my number one thing, man, like it's kind of what you do in the morning. I write out all my goals, okay, of everything I'm trying to achieve, which I have 5 mainstays that I focus in on, and I picture them, visualize them, everything else. That doesn't necessarily help out with your sleep, but it takes your brain off of certain things. But and I think you know this about me, but I'm a follower of Christ. So I sit there and pray on all that stuff. And like ever since I've been baptized again, when you feel like all the pressure's on you, it's stressful. Whenever I know now, just so you know, like I absolutely 100% know that I leave it all to Jesus and I have nothing to worry about. I'm like, why am I stressed? It's not going to matter. It's not going to change anything. It changes nothing about your life. I leave it all to Jesus. He handles it and it works out excellent for me every time. I know that's so hard for people to conceive, but like, I'm not going to sit here and be all religious, but like, there's just so many things on that aspect that help me, and prayer is one of them for sure. And if you're fasting and like you were talking about, you're closer spiritually when you are fasting for sure, but that helps me out tremendously. Like I sleep like a baby in this Whoop watch. I'm not trying to sponsor Whoop or have Whoop sponsors, but
Sounds
like
like
it's
that, my friend.
they're man, it tells me like if you here, let me see if I pull up one of my stats, but it shows my sleep is like absolutely, amazing. It's mainly my sleep efficiency is
Yeah.
like, well, you probably won't be able to see it, but it's 95%. It's almost 90 something percent. The reason why it only gives me an 83% overall is because I only sleep like 5, maybe 6 hours. So I don't sleep enough hours, but whatever.
Okay,
That's
so
my,
you only sleep for that show. That's where I'm not saying I get bad quality sleep. Mine's just short. I know
oh
you
yeah.
have 8 hours. There's no chance I'm getting 8, 9 hours of sleep.
No, like the most I think I've ever gotten was last night almost. I got 7 hours and 10 minutes. And that's a record because usually it's right around that 6 hour marker. But I knew I had to exhaust my
But
body.
quality over quantity, then I suppose.
Yeah, because here's the thing: like, if you need to take a little nap throughout the day, so be it. But your body's so routine. So, like, I got kids. My daughter wants to lay there and talk to me for an hour at bedtime. I'm trying to go to sleep, but she's my little sweetheart. So, things change from what you want to do, and you got to make time for them because if you don't, someone bad will. And I'm her dad, so however her dad treats her is what kind of man she's. And this is totally a different conversation, but what she's going to look for in another man. So I want to make sure she knows, how she's supposed to be treated. I open the doors for her mom and everything else, and just try to be the best dad I possibly can on her.
Chivalry is not dead, my friend. I like it.
No, no, heck no. I'm not a, whatever you want to call it. I don't even know what the right wording is for that anymore. There's just so many names, but I definitely believe you should open the door for women, even other people, other elderly people, or whatever it is. But make sure you just have good manners. So
Yeah. Well, that's not going to make the world a worse place, is it? It's a good thing. So.
no, absolutely.
So okay, so sleep. I mean, that's definitely something I'm going to do more research on in terms of quality, quantity. Is it quality, quantity? Is it a matter of getting you 8 hours? Because we've got pets in the house. We've got 4 cats. They're jumping around. My wife has to sleep with the TV on, so it's like the total opposite to me. I want everything dark. I want computer. She's got
Same
a
here.
laptop there, TV
Yep.
on, phone. I'm like, the cats are jumping around. So there's a part of that. There's something that when we were separated, I got to say, it was not to say I'm happy I'm back together with my wife, but that period of time was the sleep quality was so much better because my environment was controlled, right?
Well, and that's the thing because we even have the door lock, ADP system on in our room, and it has that little blue light in it. So I go put a towel over that every night, just
Yeah,
to, just to make it even darker because like I it increases your melatonin. So as you, I don't know if you know this, but like obviously you got your melatonin, then you got your what's the stress hormone called again? Cortisol.
Cortisol,
So
yeah.
your cortisol starts out high in the morning because that's what gives you a lot of your energy, and then your melatonin starts out low, so you're down here. But as the day goes by, they cross, and then at the end of the day, your melatonin's high, so you sleep, and your cortisol is low. But light affects that. That's why you're supposed to stay away from your phone and everything else. And a lot of people can't do that. And when I go to like even our city council meetings, I'm not gonna lie, like I won't get home until 9, 10 o'clock at night, and I'm like so amped up, it's just hard for me to go to sleep. But I can't have the lights on, all our stuff. My wife will be looking at her phone and stuff, but I try to just put the pillow between us, so block that little little bit of glare.
Yeah, no, but it's. I think it's important. It's so important to know. You've got to learn from how you operate and what's good for you because everyone's different. I think the routine is key, and a couple of things that again I probably didn't talk about was when I wake up. I'm not. Coffee for me was a bad thing. Like, bad in the sense of I could be 10 deep. The Italian blood in me. We're always drinking coffee
10
non-stop.
coffees.
Well, espressos, 10 espressos, but little cup. Yeah, but I would do this first thing. I'd get up and I'd have a coffee. That was always my routine. The more I learned, and being in the fasting groups and the fitness groups and stuff, I really dialed into when I get up. I don't touch coffee for like at least an hour now. I've got my electrolytes with creatine in it. I use Element is one of the company that I use for it, or I might make my own one up with baking soda, salt, low salt as a little mix to do, which is really helpful for the fasting as well because you're getting all the electrolytes of replenishment for your body. So that
Are
I'm
you
doing daily.
are
Always.
you using the baking soda for alkalizing?
You know what? I don't even. It's a little mix that basically does the same as an electrolyte mix. If you don't have one, it's your own one. So I couldn't tell you the benefits of the baking soda in that sense. It's just that.
Yeah, baking soda usually alkalizes. Obviously, if you have no food in your system, it won't affect you. But I wouldn't take that with food because you're not trying to alkalize. You want your actually stomach to be acidic at that point. But no, I like that. Good setup. Yeah, and I'm the same with you. Like I don't. I'm not saying never drink caffeine anymore because I do a little bit, but it's rare. Like I'm not. I don't drink coffee. I don't drink any of that stuff. And I have usually great energy throughout the day. If I do start drinking caffeines, I do get that where I hit that fatigue wall again. And I used to abuse caffeine. Not saying 10 espressos, but
And
you
there's,
know,
that is, as well. There's this. I seem to see so much mixed information about coffee. There's one camp that's preaching how good it is, and there's one camp that's preaching how bad it is. I think that anything in moderation, you can find a balance to it. But yeah, 10's extreme.
well, Gio, here's the thing. Like, I don't think coffee's bad for you at all. But here's what I will say about it, and this is my personal opinion. There's some chicken that is actually chicken, and it's organic, and it wasn't fed a bunch of crappy, corn and all their stuff, hormones and all their stuff. And then there's chicken that's chicken again, and that's all it is. But it was fed all that crap. Yeah, they're both chicken, but they're raised differently, and ate totally different meals. So one could be good for you, one couldn't. Same with coffee. One can be raised with a ton of cytotoxins and all that other stuff and molds in them and everything else that affect your body very negatively. That's not usually what causes the issues outside of, well, I better not say any names, but some of these big coffee brands. But it's the stuff you put into it. People don't want black coffee. They put all the sugars and creamers and all their stuff in it. That's what usually causes the problems. I don't think it's coffee by itself, especially if it's in organic form and it's grown naturally and everything. I don't think there's any problem with that at all. Actually, I think there's a lot of benefit for it, especially if you're working out or maybe trying to cut a little bit of fat or something like that to keep your heart rate a little bit increased. Not extreme, but a little bit. There's some big benefits to that. So
Yeah, pre-workout. Plenty of workouts I've done. I'm tired. I think I'm not. Really don't want to work out. I have a quick espresso shot and boom, I'm at it. And another thing I do as well, I've got a good setup in my garage. I've got a full gym from CrossFit, boxing, everything. So there's no excuse here. So during the day, I'll step off the desk, which is again really important to handle stress for me. If you want to call it stress, again, I don't really see it as stress, but just to reset, I've got the bag and I'll do like I'll put my sauna suit on and I'll hit the bag for like 10 rounds, middle of the day typically.
yeah, clear your mind for a little bit. But yeah, we got to wrap up. But on one of these podcasts, we really should go over because like it isn't just nutrition. Obviously, there's a lot more to that. There are different supplements out there. We should go through like a whole protocol because there are things like people get stuck in ruts. And I will say, like I see it with my own kids. Whenever I let them go free with sugars and all this other stuff, especially my 11-year-old, he just acts crazy. Even with video games, like how much screen time you have, but just protocols of stuff that you need to keep in place. And while it is hard, there's ways to manage all that. But I think starting with yourself and make sure your diet is in place is great. But there's supplements like I'm training for something pretty extreme that helps you heal a lot quicker. I'm not taking steroids, not like that, but just help your body get the nourishment it needs and make sure that there's not outside items like heavy metals or something like that, molds, that are stopping the absorption of, the electrolytes or the nutrients you need that actually help you perform at a much higher level. So we should jump into that on another podcast. But Gio, any last comments or anything you want to throw out there?
No, but we will definitely jump into that because I'm doing TRT, I'm doing peptides, I'm pulling out all the heavy metals, and we're about to go down that road of all the, even deeper on that front. So
It's awesome.
that'll be interesting. It'd be good to kind of see the results down the road. But
Yeah, no, you should get a before, because I just actually tested mine again. I tested mine many years ago, but you should give us the before results. We'll post them up and then show people, the after, like, give it a 3 or 6 months, 6 month. Yeah.
Yeah, some of that stuff internally is hard because you can look good on the outside, but still
Yep.
be terrible on the inside. But yeah, from a visual standpoint, it's a good first marker, isn't it, to see where you've come. But then energy is everything. How do you feel? How do you go through the day? But to go back to wrap it up, I know we're running out of time. I think the routine, knowing what you're doing every day. So fail to prepare, prepare to fail. I think everybody's heard that. Setting your day up, knowing what you're doing, time blocking your day from your family to your fitness to your work. That in itself helps you feel, calmer, and it can get rid of the stress. And then letting go, finding somewhere to put that stress. In your case, you say you give it to Jesus. That's great. For me, as I say, I disattach it and I let go of it and I try to stay present. It's all the same thing, like staying in the moment, not worried too much on the future because there's anxiety there. And if you're hanging on to the past, we all know there's depression. So if you can stay in that bubble, in that moment, you'll handle it all better, stress wise.
I love the words of wisdom, man. It's always good to hear. Appreciate everybody jumping on. We look forward to seeing you next week. Have a great week, rest of your week, and God bless.